Have you ever wondered, how do I find my soulmate? Have you ever thought, do I even want to date? Do I even want to be on these dating apps? Have you ever thought it'd be nice to be married and it sounds like a lot of work and I'm not sure I want to go through the pain? Well, today I am going to talk to you about how to find your soulmate or unconventional advice from a happily married Christian life coach. The reason I'm talking about this is because I've had so many conversations recently with friends and with even brand new acquaintances, and they all want the same thing. They all want a forever relationship, but they're all being held back by how do you get it? They're being held back by it sounds like a lot of work. They're being held back by you've got to, the idea, you got to kiss a lot of frogs to find the prince, which is, dating apps and going through all of that. And it just sounds absolutely overwhelming and is even worth the effort. And will I even be successful after putting all that in? So I want to help clear this up. And I want to put this something out here because, as you know, I've got two children, a 22-year-old and a 20-year-old. And I'd like to be a grandmother someday. Doesn't have to be next week, doesn't have to be next year, but someday. And I thought maybe I could just create a video that would help anyone that is looking for true love. Disney version. Okay. But unconventional advice. So just so you know, my husband and I, Hiram, have been happily married for almost 25 years, and we were there's some conventional and some unconventional ways about how we met each other. So we were both young Christians who went to the same Bible college, and surprise, surprise, we found each other there. That seems pretty typical, and there's a reason why that worked, as in, even though it was a small college, maybe 600 people at that time, most people there were single and of marriage age and also had similar values in common. So it definitely increased our odds of finding love. But here's the unconventional part. We did not start dating until our senior year, until right before Christmas of our senior year. We didn't go on our actual first off-campus date, just all by ourselves until, I don't know, February or something like that. We got engaged right afterward, actually, and we got married by September. We had a long acquaintanceship and a very short dating and engagement period, and we've been happily married. So get ready for my unconventional advice. But first of all, I want to say this. Unconventional advice, piece number one. If this is something that's really important to you, take it on like it's a project. Now, this is pretty unconventional for a couple of reasons. Many Christians have been taught, don't go looking for love. Wait for God to bring that person to you. And that's great if it happens. It really is. But I don't think it's any less of a measure of faith if you believe that I being in the way, the Lord led me. Why do I say that verse? So there's a story in the Bible. I love this story. I've used it for so many examples, but this is what I'm talking about. When you get clarity, you reach your goals quicker. So I'm going to show you how to use a clarity formula for success for reaching the goal of finding a successful mate for life. So I'm going to tell you the 3 steps. But before I tell you the 3 steps, I want to tell you some obstacles. So number 1, we believe that we don't need to be looking for it, that it's just going to happen. That is the passive faith approach. I believe that true faith is activating. Like if we believe that we are going to be married, like this might be a part of God's will for our life, then we would act towards it, as in go looking for it. Here's the story that I want to share. Abraham was looking for a wife for Isaac. And so he takes his most trusted servant, Eleazar, I believe his name was, and sends him and says, go find a wife for my son. You notice he didn't wait for the wife to come to him. He says, don't look here, look here. These are the qualities I'm looking for. Somebody that believes like we do. And Eleazar says, what if I find her? She doesn't want to come back. And he says, okay, that's fine. And so there was a parameter in the search. So Eleazar went out and he then put a test out and God worked it all out. He found Rachel, and it's a very interesting story. But the point that I want you to focus on is this. Eleazar said at some point, I, being in the way, the Lord led me. As in, I took action before I knew it was going to work out, and then the Lord led me. That's what I'm talking about here. Faith is active. So if you believe that God wants you to get married, then get active in pursuing that goal. That's number one. But here's the important thing. Many people want to get married for the wrong reasons. I think that sometimes God protects us during those seasons in our life. Major reason number one, you should not be looking to get married. If you have a giant hole in your love bucket, as in there's a hole in your heart and you're hoping the right spouse will fill that hole and will complete you. That is not great energy. As in, I am not complete in myself. I do not see myself as a whole person. I do not see myself as a complete person. I need somebody to feel complete, to feel fulfilled, to feel meaningful. No, get that fulfillment, get that completeness from God. Otherwise, you'll be desperate in your search. And this is what I saw so many times at that Bible college, were people that were just like, I just want someone to love and to love me. I don't feel worthy. I don't feel whole. I don't feel of value. But if somebody loves me, then I can believe that I am worthy of being loved. It's reversed. Got to do it the other way. Okay, so you want to find your soulmate? Number one, we're going to believe that we need to put some action towards it. Number two, we're going to not be looking, because we're desperate, but be looking as a mature person, as in, I've got something to offer somebody, and I'm looking for somebody who has something to offer to me too. You see how that will change the game? What are some other mistakes? I made a list of these. Let me go through them really quickly. Oh, the physical attraction piece. Should I be looking for somebody that I am physically attracted to? Is that the most important thing, or is that not important? I would say it's the middle, as in, definitely, you want physical attraction. And also, you do not want to rely upon that as the only standard. At my Bible college, sometimes they played down the physical attraction to the point of, that's not important. You need to build your marriage on something more. And it's like, that's ridiculous. Why did God make us as male and female sexual beings if there's not going to be some physical attraction there? So if it's not there at all, not a good option. We don't have to live at the time of arranged marriages. See, this is a scarcity mindset. We think, it's either logical or it's emotional. And if we get all wrapped up in our emotions, then we'll no longer be logical. What if it's neither? But what if it's both? What if we can be physically attracted to somebody and also still make wise decisions for our future? So don't overplay physical attraction. Don't downplay physical attraction. When we have that giant hole in our heart, we settle for less than we deserve. We settle for people who do not treat us well. Maybe we grew up and our parents didn't treat us well, or maybe we grew up and from some kind of trauma or something like that. And so somebody shows us a little bit of attention and we're like, oh, we're so hungry for it. That's what I'm saying. Don't be searching in desperation. Take care of yourself before and then go out. Okay, ignoring red flags. Oh gosh. There's so much that could be said here, but let's just say that one of the best things that we could be teaching our young people about marriage is how to identify red flags. As in, is this person that you're dating, do they have time for you? Do they subtly put you down? Do they try to control you? Do they make time for you? Or are you just an addition to their life? How do they treat other people? Go out to a restaurant, see how they treat the wait staff. I mean, that'll tell a lot. Here's another thing that slows us down from finding the perfect person. And this one is a big one that plays in as we get older. We start expecting perfection. We want all the things. There's a little video on Instagram about, I believe it's Pride and Prejudice. And it's like, I'm looking for a guy in finance with a trust fund, 6'5", blue eyes. It's hilarious. And it's, the perfect guy. It's like, none of us are perfect. We don't want to settle and we don't want to expect too much. But everybody's like, well, what's expecting too much? Am I expecting too much? Are my standards too high? I would say, and take this with a grain of salt because this is really painting with a broad brush right now. Lower your dating standards and raise your marriage standards. As in, go out and meet more people and be open to more new experiences and getting to know people, okay? And also know what you want in your forever. Like if you could only pick 3 things in your forever spouse, what would those 3 things be? Like what are the 3 most important things? And find out quickly. Like if you had to really narrow it down to just 3, then find out quickly what are those 3 and does this person have those? Oh, here's a big one. Getting stuck in past relationships. As in, well, I know I don't want this. I had this, and that's exactly what I want. Well, when we focus on what we don't want, we usually swing to the exact opposite instead of finding that happy middle ground or the happy future ground. What is it I'm really looking for? Well, I don't want this. Well, okay, good to know. But what is it you do want? Well, the opposite of that. No, you don't want the opposite of that either. You probably want something different, something, let's just in a clean space. What do you want for future you? And then here is a big one. Mistakes. How well can you communicate? Can you talk to this person? You want somebody who's open to communication. I'm not saying communication is going to be perfect. I'm not saying that you're going to avoid all fights. I'm saying that we only have a few options for conquering problems in marriage, and communication happens to be one of the best ways of doing that. So you want somebody who, even though they may not communicate well, they're willing to keep trying. Maybe they shut down, but then they come back. Or maybe they need to think about it before they give you an answer. But if you find yourself in a relationship with somebody and you're like, I can't talk about that. Ooh, I can't talk about that. Ooh, I can't talk about that. I can't talk about that. You got to ask, what kind of fruit is that going to bear future? I remember when we were dating, my future husband, I did something and it's not important what I did. But he communicated with me. He's like, I was uncomfortable that you did that. I didn't like the way you did that and the way you talked about it and the way you handled it. And there was a moment when I'm like, this is going to work. And that was when I was like, wow, it hurts that you don't agree. And also, I would still have done it and I will still do it. And I'm not going to apologize for it. Like, this is me. And that is going to be the perfect segue into 3 steps to finding your soulmate. These are very broad principles, but number 1, know yourself, as in bring the authentic version of you into these relationships. If you can't be yourself, then how are they going to fall in love with the real you? Be aware of the parts of you that you're tempted to hide, or the parts of you that you're tempted to change, or the parts of you that you're tempted to conform to somebody else. How tempted are you to give in to somebody else instead of showing the other person your authentic version of you? So in this example where my future husband criticized something I had said, and I sat with it, and I remember thinking, this is horrible, like, oh my gosh. But I also was like, and that's me. Like, it's probably a good thing that it happened because it's going to happen again because that's actually me, and you may not like, if you don't like that, you're not going to like me because that is me. And I would do it again, and not in a mean way, but we're opposites. Opposites are attracting, and you're seeing the difference in our opposites. Can you live with that? And it was actually reassuring to me that he felt comfortable enough in our relationship to bring it up versus hiding the fact or, trying to convince himself that I'm okay with that, even though if I'm not. He talked about it. We talked about it. It was a moment of growth for us. All right. Know yourself. A lot of these problems will be taken care of the better you know yourself. Am I desperate for a relationship? What am I looking for in a relationship? What do I have to offer a relationship? What are the most important 3 things I would value in a spouse, like the values? What are the 3 things that I have, my values, that somebody would be looking for in me? When you have a match on future goals and values, that is a much stronger match. When 2 people are wanting 2 people don't have to be exactly alike. They don't have to want all the same things. They just have to make sure the thing that they want the most is a match. This is why in discussion about, are we going to have children or not? Do we want children? Yes or no? I just remembered one of the mistakes Christians make. The Bible speaks about be not unequally yoked with unbelievers. Why is that? Because for a true believer, if you're following God, that's kind of the most important thing in your life. So if that's the most important thing in your life and it's nothing to the other person, then you have to question, how is this going to work out when what's most important to me is not most important to them? But here's the mistake that Christians make. They believe, well, if we're both Christians, then it will all work out. And I would say it depends on how willing you are both being controlled by the Holy Spirit and allowing growth in your life. So just because you're both Christians doesn't mean that both of you are seeking to grow in grace and in knowledge and are both aiming for future, walking in faith. So just both people being Christians doesn't solve it all. There's the difference between being a Christian and being a committed Christian. Being committed Christians as in just going through the motions and staying busy all the time doesn't solve it all either. You want there to be a true authenticity to each of your relationship with God, if that's the most important thing to you. But when you have that in common, then that is very solid ground to build a relationship on. Now, this is also why people who are not Christians have very successful relationships, because they figured it out. What is the common piece of ground? What is the common goal that we have aimed our relationship for? What is that thing that we have in common that strengthens us and binds us together on the soul level? Okay, so number 1, know yourself. Number 2, clarify the end goal. I actually just talked about that. Do you have that in common? One of the things that allowed mine and my husband's relationship to progress so quickly was that we had the end goal in common. We had the end goal of we both want a forever relationship. We both are pretty secure in who we are. We're both wanting a partner that supports and encourages each other in their dreams. And we're both headed in the same direction in life. Because we had all of that, it could go really fast. And the physical attraction. The physical attraction was the first clue for us. Okay, but the real test were those things. And then the third thing to finding your soulmate is take consistent action. As in, put yourself out where you can be found. Make yourself findable. Let your friends know what you're looking for. Once you know what you're looking for, you can tell other people what you're looking for, and they're like, ooh, I know the perfect person. But you got to put yourself out there. And ask yourself this. This is a question I asked somebody recently. If you had to go on 100 dates to find the guy, to find your soulmate, would it be worth that effort? Would you be willing to go through the effort of 100 dates to find your soulmate? Well, that'll show you how important that goal is to you and whether it's a priority or not. Because if it's a priority, then the answer will be yes. And also, you probably won't have to go that far. But it's just to help your mind get over the hurdle of this is going to be so hard. It's like, well, how hard is it going to be? If I have to go on 100 dates with 100 different guys, once I actually know my mind and what I'm looking for, and I frame my dating profile in a way that speaks to those guys. See, that's the other thing. When you're doing your dating profiles, you need to think like a marketing expert. Like you are speaking to your ideal client. Who's your ideal client? The guy that you're looking to match with. So speak the language of that guy instead of, talking about yourself. And try to do two things. Draw in that guy and repel the guys that are not like that. Repel the guys who are just looking for one night stands or who are not serious about marriage. They're just looking for somebody, arm candy or whatever. Sorry, you guys, my lingo is falling all apart on this. All right. This topic deserves so much more time. However, I am out of time on this. But if you would like help applying this clarity formula for success to the goal of how to find a soulmate, that's what I do. I help people get so clear and so confident that they take consistent action. And this formula can work for many goals. We're just applying it right now to the idea of dating. All right. That's all I have for you today. Can't wait to hear your thoughts. Share this with a friend that'll help, and you have a great week.